All right, we got a new segment we're playing this week. It's Bundesliga talk. All right, so here we are. We are soccer. I've got our Bundesliga expert Nate joining us. Cheers, Nate. Thanks for joining.
Cheers, bro.
Your mug's a little bit bigger than mine, but that's okay. It's still filled with the same stuff. So,
This is the German warm up.
There you go.
So.
That's a big warm up. Let me put it that way. All right. So why don't we jump right in and talk about the Bundesliga? So one of the games we want to talk about happened today. Why don't we go ahead and chat about that? You and I both watched it separately, but big game there. We expected not exactly what to happen, but yeah. What was your thoughts on the game today?
So yeah, Bremen Leipzig for the DFB Pokal or DFB Cup, which is the kind of the FA Cup of the German league, which is nice. You got League 2, League 1 teams playing against each other. We're down to the semifinal. And what's nice is actually Dortmund is actually playing the fifth or ranked currently right now, I believe fourth last time I checked in the second league. So they're playing them Saturday, so that should be a good game. But the Bremen versus Leipzig. Bremen's been struggling. Last few games they've been playing, they've been dropping points left and right. Leipzig has been doing well. They had a little bit of a stumble, but still doing well. And I thought it was going to be a one-sided match that went all the way to the final minutes of 125. So they went and did the 90s and did 0-0, had a couple close calls. Both teams were going at each other really, really strong. Had a penalty that was called back, rightfully so. We talked about that.
Let's talk about that real quick because we were both, as I said, we're swapping text messages at that point, and yeah, it was when I first saw it, I thought well, that's a penalty, and then you see the replays, and it clearly wasn't a penalty. The referee was instructed by VAR, the assistant referee, go ahead, take a look on the monitor. The referee took 30 seconds at the monitor and made the correct call, called it back, and said no. No penalty. And that's a good thing. That's one of the only times I've seen VAR work this year. But I'm very happy it did because it was the correct call. But if we kind of talk about that first half, Bremen, the young American sergeant, he should have probably put the ball in the net when he had the chance, just missed it wide, did well to stay on his feet, could have hit the floor. But I liked the fact that he stayed on his feet. Missed his opportunity though, so that's a bit of a bummer.
Well, and we were texting back and forth on that one. That was where a player would have gone down and probably would have got a penalty, and it would have been a different story. Hats off to the kid for staying upright. I love Sargent. I think he's a great player, and I think he will be great and is great for the men's national team. Did great in that game too. And the Bremen coach actually, I think, 1 point this year even praised him for being such a good player that he couldn't imagine his team without him. So it's good to see a player that age be an impact for that team. And I thought he played very well in the game. Was always combined with a bunch of passes going forward, had a few opportunities running in. Unfortunately missed that one goal. That would have been putting him in legend status had he hit it and they finished out. Didn't. Oh well, bunch of near chances though by Leipzig. Couple posts hit. One nice save from the goalkeeper that pushed it off into the post, just barely getting it away. So the Leipzig had a bunch of chances where Bremen really, really, really stuck in and were able to hold them off, kind of frustrating them a bit.
Yep. Which
led into the extra time. And then you had the first goal, which was a very silky smooth goal by the substitution that came on for Leipzig.
Yep.
And slotted it really nicely, pushing through defenders, slotting it nicely. And then he had the counter from Bremen, which nice little outside chip goal that broke free with a defensive mistake. And then carrying it again all the way down to the final minute where we had the header all the way to Forsberg that plucked it in the air, sealing the deal. And it was quite the nice combination from from the Leipzig guys to pull ahead.
That was a great goal, a great team goal, right? Crossed in, headed
Yeah.
back, a nice little, guy had to get up and volley it. A great goal. And was that in the 120th minute and plus 2 extra time?
Yeah.
It was injury time. It was that's a way to win it. That's a great soccer match right there. I mean, that's what you want to see. We both expected Leipzig to run away with it based on their form, based on Bremen's form, but it didn't end up that way, and it was a good game back and forth. That's kind of what the Bundesliga has been about, right? So again, another reason why we love that league.
Well, and I called 2-1, not to toot my own horn, but I did call 2-1. But I did not think 2-1 in added time, and I did not think 2-1 like that. I thought it was going to be Leipzig bouncing out to 2, Bremen nicking one in, but basically Leipzig dominating for the most part. And I think possession-wise, I don't have in front of me. I think they did dominate possession-wise, but I don't think watching the game, that doesn't tell the full story of what was going on out there, because both teams really were going at each other. And it was nice to see. That was probably the best game Bremen had played in at least 4 or 5 matches.
Absolutely, yeah, they've been on a slide, so that was good to see them come out. So that was the semifinal of the one semifinal. The other one is tomorrow, and it's got Borussia Dortmund versus Holstein. What's your thoughts on that game? Do you expect Borussia Dortmund to run away with it, or could it be another close one like today's game?
Well, it could be close if, God comes down and starts playing for Holstein himself and somehow casts a miracle spell where Dortmund can't score. No, I mean, anything can happen, right?
Right.
But if I'm putting money down right now, it's going to Dortmund. Yeah. So go ahead and slot that in there for your bet. But I mean, as Barcelona has showed us over the weekend, anything could happen. But all intents and purposes, I would expect Dortmund to win this game handedly, with probably a couple goals from Holland. Hopefully Reina gets out there, maybe even Sancho for a bit, as he's still recovering to get some minutes in. But I wouldn't anticipate anything but a Dortmund win, and seeing Dortmund versus Leipzig in the final, which would be a very interesting match considering the Dortmund coach is on the way out, considering the Leipzig coach is on the way out. Yep. So it's 2 guys out, to stamp their mark before they leave, and to kind of hang their hat on something with a club that they're no longer going to be with. So it should be a very interesting final if it comes down to those 2.
It's a strange scenario right now in the Bundesliga with coaches. I'm calling it the Bundesliga coaching merry-go-round, because you've got coaches just skip hopping and jumping teams, right? So Nagelsmann's going to Bayern, correct?
Yep.
And then Jesse Marsch is going to Leipzig, the American Jesse Marsch, who you noted to me earlier has seemed to pick up the German language very well.
His German is spot on. Actually, I had some guys that played with in Germany send me his video from when he was talking in that, if you ever seen that in the YouTube video, when he was in Salzburg against Liverpool in the final, and he got so mad that midway through the video he switches to English, and they're like, your German's better than his. No, it's not. His German is phenomenal. He's fluent speaking, for sure, in his latest interview with Leipzig. And I'm hopeful. I think he'll do well. I mean, which I think will really be nice to see an American part of a bigger German club, bigger European club. I mean, you kind of ignore the fact that Stuttgart has American coach, but a little bit different where this guy came through the ranks a bit from the stateside, started as the assistant in the US, went to Montreal Impact, went over the New York Red Bulls, learned there, then switched over to Salzburg, and has just been groomed along the way. Did phenomenal in Salzburg. If you know anything about the Austrian league. I don't pay attention to it myself that much, but I do know he won 2 cups there while he was there, and was a mentor to Holland, was a mentor to several young guys who are now actually on Leipzig, and will be taking over there for RB Leipzig, and I'm hopeful he'll do well.
Yeah, it's great to see a young American coach coming through, because as we've already mentioned, there's several young American players in Europe coming through, like in the Bundesliga, in in Pulisic and EPL. I mean, we've got the Americans have in the past 12, 24 months here just invaded Europe, these young kids, and it's great to see. And finally, now there's a coach, and I think it's not well, these young American kids are just athletic and speedy. No, these kids have grown up playing the game, and now we're seeing the coach come through as well. A product of here. He wasn't someone who grew up over there and has learned and just says he's American. Someone who learned the trade here and has bounced around a little bit to clubs and then went there. And so it's really good to see.
Well, and I remember in a not too distant past, when an American would go to a European team, you just have to think, like, is he really going to be good? Or is this some type of way for them to market to the U.S.? Not to name anybody's name, to, put them down, that everyone's a great player, that puts on the stars and stripes and represents our country, in my opinion. But there's a couple guys that I think made a jump, say to Inter Milan as a defender, and you're kind of like, are you really going to be playing any minutes? And no, it turned out they weren't, but now you got guys who are going over, like Kenny, over to Juventus, who is a key member of their team. Pulisic, I was wrong. I thought Pulisic should have stayed in the Bundesliga, and I would question whether or not jumping to Chelsea. I thought maybe the next logical step was for him to go to Munich for a couple of years, because that's a bigger club, and then go to Chelsea. Boy, I think he's doing well, and under 2 different coaches and still playing strong. So you have a lot of guys coming up, and like you said, that are performing very well in Europe.
Yeah, it's great to see. And not to skip too far ahead, I think there's a lot more youngsters coming through from the U.S. and going through to the Bundesliga and learning their trade, and to the lower leagues as well in Germany. So, we can get into that.
Fritz Richards, Hoffenheim.
Right. I mean, there's
starting on loan from Munich, starting defender now for Hoffenheim. Got a bit of a knock. Hopefully he's all right, but he's a starting center back now.
I think in the next couple of weeks here, we need to do an entire segment on the Americans in the Bundesliga and in Germany and how they've progressed, and it'd be fun to kind of talk through a lot of those players and see where speculate where they're going to be at. So for another time,
another time.
Another time and another beer, right? So
another time, another beer.
So the Bundesliga is kind of taken this weekend off due to the their cup they're having over there.
Yep.
What is it? The DK Polka Cup? Is that what it is?
Yep. DFB Polka, the German Deutsche Bahn German Polka tournament.
There it is. So yeah, I mean, I think next weekend is going to be a big weekend for the Bundesliga to be back. We know Dortmund are playing Leipzig just in the Bundesliga in regular league game, and then obviously, as we talked about, they could possibly be in the final of the Polka Cup. So lots to look forward to. Why don't we plan on doing another one of these in the next week, and we'll have another beer and we'll talk Bundesliga, we'll talk players, we'll talk American players in the Bundesliga, and we'll see what we got. Sound good?
Sure. Sounds good to me.
All right, Nate. Really appreciate the time, buddy. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Prost.
Prost. Cheers.